How's it going, you guys? So I just pretty much finished up with it's going to be about a 50-minute walk. And I kind of jogged a little bit, but today was more of a walk since yesterday I did such a long cycling session. And I kind of want to bring some ideas that kind of came to my head to share with you guys. So look, first of all, every single day, go out and do some type of long duration steady state cardio. Try to make it as vigorous as you possibly can for the day. And if you don't feel like you have the energy, look, first start with walking, right? Also look at your caloric intake, look at your protein intake, and make sure you're taking in enough to sustain your energy. But just start doing it, make it a habit, right? So the other thing is, a lot of people, especially watching my YouTube channel, they're interested in self-improvement, self-development, yada yada, right? Improving their mind, their health of mind, health of body, and if you want to call it health of spirit, you hippie ass motherfucker, go right for it, right? But self-improvement, right? But the thing is, the most important thing for you to do is recognize, like, what is it that you really want. And I think that's the part where everyone's stuck at. Everybody, they're like looking at all this self-improvement information, and they're constantly consuming, but their output is not even equal to the amount that of their input. They're consuming so much but not creating enough. And so kind of like what I figured out here is that you got to figure out what you want before you can start to actually like feel any kind of real substantial fulfillment or improvement. And that what that means is you got to sit down, like, write in a journal. That's what I was going to say. Write in a journal. Get a journal out, and first of all, get all your thoughts out. Do this every single day. Okay, 1 hour of cardio, so you can get your brain-derived neurotrophic factor and other brain chemicals flowing. These chemicals are going to produce the organization of the thoughts in the mind that you need in order to actually be creative and be productive with your thoughts. It's very important. So do that, and then sit down every single day for at least 30 minutes and force yourself to just write out your thoughts, right? Start off with a couple pages of whatever thoughts are in your head, whatever worries you have, and just examine them. And then, of course, try to transform them into positive thoughts or solutions, proactive thoughts. But even more specifically is think about, like, what is wrong with your life right now? Like, what is it that you're dissatisfied with? And think about ways of improving that. Think about, the opposite of your dissatisfaction. For example, maybe you feel depressed because, I don't know, you don't have friends or whatever. Well, what's the opposite of that? Having friends, obviously. But then you got to kind of think about, well, because just having any kind of friends is not going to do it. You might think, oh, I'm lonely, I need friends. When you start to get friends, if they're annoying or if they're boring, it's just going to be like empty bodies there next to you, and it's not going to make a positive impact, okay? So then you need to think about what kind of characteristics you want in your friends. And so, really take the time to think about what type of friends you want to surround yourself with. Like, what would it take in these relationships with people to actually make you feel happy and fulfilled? And think about, for example, I recognize that I spend a lot of time reading nutrition books and nutrition science and watching lectures on serious topics. And so my mind becomes so serious that I'm not laughing as much as I used to. I'm not feeling inspired or creative like I used to because I'm paying so much energy to serious topics that my brain is serious, my life is serious, and so I don't feel anything other than serious emotions. And seriousness is important, and a lot of people lack that aspect, but I recognize that for myself at least, it's important to bring the creative, the happy the easygoing vibes into my life as well, listening to music like I did when I was a teenager, you know, playing more video games like I did as a teenager. Like, especially in the self-improvement community, people get so caught up in seriousness and they think they're doing themselves a favor by banning all the fun in their lives. And like, for the first year, maybe 2 years, that's important, man. Get your shit together. But especially, you know, right now, because, you know, everyone's on lockdown from the coronavirus, there's not a whole lot you can do to advance your career unless you're, you know, you got security work like I do on the side, right? But anyway, you know, sit down and write about these things, and try to think in from first perspective. That's another thing I started to notice is I talk a lot in third person perspective, right? Like, I talk about principles and ideas in a third person, and that's fine. But I also recognize that a lot of people who are chronic procrastinators, and they're the exact person that I don't want to be, they typically talk in third person. Like, they're like, yeah, you should do this in your life, or it's important to do this, and blah, blah, blah. But I don't hear them saying, yeah, I realize, you know, whenever I sit in home for a long time, I start to feel depressed. And so I think that can cause a habit of being disconnected from like how you feel as an individual, and it kind of like makes you feel as though you have everything figured out. And especially for someone like me who makes YouTube videos telling people how to improve their lives, I think it creates like a guru complex, and I think that's the enemy of self-development, is feeling like you've already got things figured out. And so talking in first person perspective is powerful, because instead of, you know, communicating principles like oh, be proactive, you know, like being proactive means, you know, you don't complain about the things you can't control, and instead you focus on influencing the things you can. It's like, that's great that you understand that, but that's a third person communication, and how you speak out loud is how you think internally. And so I think a lot in third person perspective. And I think that it's more conducive to actually like improving myself and understanding myself and my feelings and who I am, to start talking and thinking in first person perspective more frequently. And so an example is, instead of saying, you know, being proactive is blah, 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 I would be saying, you know, I realized that, you know, when I sit around complaining all the time, it just puts me in a bad mood, doesn't help anyone outside of me, and doesn't ever come to a solution. And I just dwell on a problem and never fix anything. Therefore, you know, I read the books 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, and he talks about being proactive. And I realized that I need to be more proactive. And what that means, what that looks like, is me, instead of complaining about my problems, now I started to focus on things I can control, and focus on, you know, influencing and inspiring other people rather than trying to control them. And I found better benefits when I started to do that, right? So that's a huge difference in communication and in the overall vibe. And it really kind of flips it around, right? It's a very different way of communicating. Again, subtle things actually produce drastic changes. So anyway, just a couple of kind of like things, I guess, that I was thinking about on my walk. But now I'm actually going to go inside and I'm going to journal a little bit. And going to continue to enjoy this time of peace, right? So put your comments down below. Let me know what y'all think. Let me know how y'all are doing. How are you guys handling all this? How are you guys staying mentally stable? Talk to you guys in the next video.